welcome to another episode of Addiction Uncovered. I'm Jill, your host, and I'm joined with Tracey. Tracey's born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. She started using marijuana and alcohol at age 12, and then eventually at age 15 moved into methamphetamine use. After years of struggling with being in and out of jail, mental health issues, mental health hospitals, treatment centers, and even being homeless, she eventually found recovery. She has been sober for 19 years, which is amazing. She's very passionate about spreading this message of hope and sharing her story and hopefully inspiring others. So welcome to the show, Tracey. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So we were just talking about how awesome your sparkles are. I just love this.
Thank you.
So fun. So tell us how your addiction started.
Well, I don't want to say like the cliche. I mean, I had two parents that were married. All my friends had, their parents were divorced, and we kind of ripped and ran on the streets. And I got in with the wrong crowd, really is what happened. And anyways, so my family, I thought it was normal. I thought it was normal that I had a mentally ill brother with addiction, and we have to be quiet in the house. We can't tell anybody what's going on. So I thought that was just normal. But then going to friends' house and stuff, I'd see how they act. I'm like, no, something's not right, you know. And pretty early on, me being a teenager and stuff, my brother started saying, you're going to be introduced to drugs, and you're going to be introduced to alcohol. So I want to show you how to do them safely.
Oh, being a good big brother.
Good big brother. Uh-huh. So that's kind of how it started, because none of my friends were doing the things that I was doing, the hard drugs. And, it started out on the weekend. It started with marijuana, and then alcohol, and then the cliche about, it's a gateway drug. I never bought into that, and I never believed that, but 100%. 100%. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. For me, that's how it was.
How much older is your brother?
He's 7 years older.
Oh, okay. So a big age gap. So of course you're looking to him as wanting that acceptance and wanting to do what he's doing. And
yes, that's exactly what it was like for me. Mm-hmm. So, and it was hard because I didn't understand, like, he would be so many different people, and so I didn't understand really what was going on. Until later on. He's recently actually, within the last few years, passed away from his addiction. So
gosh, I'm sorry.
He was, it was hard. So so he attempted to get sober for a period of time, but it didn't stick.
So how long then were you using?
So I had been using only on the weekends. So I did this, try some controlled use. So I'm like, well, it's not a problem. It's not a problem if you can stop and start whenever you want with alcohol or anything, right? So I'm like, I don't have a problem. I'm not like homeless on the streets.
Right.
I'm
we have
fine.
this idea of
everything is fine. I have my own apartment. Everything is good. So, and even on the weekends when you're going to high school and stuff, I would feel weird on Monday morning knowing I didn't sleep all weekend long. Like partying with my brother. He's, has me involved in things I shouldn't be. So what helped was I actually got pregnant my senior year.
Oh,
and so I have a boy, he's 27 years old. But I got pregnant in high school, and I remember going to my brother's house and sitting down with him and saying, listen, if you're going to be a part of this baby's life, there's no more drug use. We're done. And I thought, man, this is going to help him too. I was so excited, and that didn't stick because shortly after I had the baby, my father passed away not too long after that. So I was kind of very vulnerable. And during that time, he approached me and said, have you ever thought about selling drugs? And I thought, no. And he said, well, if you're a girl and you've got a child, they won't really look at you. So I'm going to write down, he wrote down for me like the amounts, what to say. He wrote it all out for me because I wasn't good with numbers and things like that. And that's really how I got into it. And then that was like about a year in, and then other people started coming to me. And what ultimately ended up happening was, this is over. I wasn't out on the streets for like a really long time, but I lost everything, and it was swift. You know, I started doing that, and then probably within 6 to 9 months, I was homeless, and on the streets, begging my mom for help. I didn't feel safe. I knew there was a lot of people going to prison around me, a lot of unsafe things happening, obviously. So I had nowhere to turn. And I asked my mother if I could stay there. I said, can I stay in it? She said, you can't stay, but your son can. Well, during that time period, her and my brother both went to foster parent classes. And then my brother called the mental institute and had me committed.
Wow.
And then it was really tough. I had a hard time when I got sober finally, when everyone's like, you have a lot of stuff, you need to go see somebody. I was terrified because literally the white coats came after me. So, wow. You know, it was scary, but that is my journey. That's what happened. And I spent a lot of time when I first got sober trying to figure out like who the characters were, you know, where everybody fit. Mm-hmm. And the minute I just quit trying to figure it out and really leaned into, you know, God and spirituality, all of that, just all the answers came to me, you know.
Well, it's hard enough to stop using and to work towards sobriety. And when you have this lack of trust and you have had that experience of some undermining and blindsided, maybe was the better word, and ending up in a mental hospital, it's very hard to move past that trust in order to really be vulnerable again and start to working on your recovery.
Yes.
Like, how did you get to that point, I guess?
So, you know, as long as I've been sober, I'm just recently, within, you know, the last few years, diving into therapy and really taking care of myself, because what my experience is when I got sober, I didn't stay sober. And so, you know, I was nudged by the judge. They told me I had to go to meetings. I was plugging my ears when I was going to meetings. I just was like, if this is going to be my life, I don't even want to be alive. Like I don't have a problem. I can stop whenever I want. I was more addicted to the lifestyle and the fast life and the money and all of that. So I was more addicted to that than anything. And so I was telling myself. So I was going to meetings, and I was in a halfway house or 3/4 way house. I was released to a 3/4 way house from the mental institute. And being there, all of a sudden I had started gaining weight at a rapid pace. Like I had gained 100 pounds in like 11 months. But my sisters that I lived with in the house, they're like, something's not right with you. You're taking medication. You're like not able to function. Maybe we can go with you to the doctor and tell him, you know, your meds aren't working. So I really just kind of leaned on other people to guide me. And at one point when I just kind of gave up, I'm like, okay, I can do that, you know. So they go with me and they're like, she's not herself. She, I think is, you know, needs different medication or whatever. So he had told me, he said, they diagnosed me as a paranoid schizophrenic. And that was a misdiagnosis. So what he had told me was, what he had told me was, here's the deal. You just keep taking your meds, but if you keep gaining weight, I'm going to put you back in the mental institute, because that's a form of self-harm. And so I was terrified, and I couldn't control it. So I went back in and I said, I'm not taking my medication, and I've got a job, and I'm feeling really good. And he's like, okay, well, we talked about, you know, if you're not taking your medication, what could happen in a relapse if you have schizophrenia and all that stuff. So I was terrified. I to this day am so thankful for him. For a long time, I would give him, like every Christmas, I would like, you know, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful for you. And he's a huge part of my story because thank goodness when I was there, he had told me, Tracey, you've been here for about 90 days, or about 30 days. So we need to you either need to, figure this out or we're going to send you to the regional center, and that was scary in itself.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but that, I mean, the story could go on and on for forever about all of that stuff. It's just, it's amazing. And I believe, I know now that it was my higher power guiding me the entire time. I choose to call him God. And for me, my God is good, orderly direction. So I don't know what I don't know what it looks like, but I do know that it's powerful and it's way bigger than me.
That's been a general theme for a lot of people that have come onto the show too, is that their faith has really steered them.
Yeah.
And for some people that isn't their story. But it's just, I think, a relief. However, whatever it is that you're putting it into, just a relief to know, like, I don't have to do this by myself. Right. So whether you're putting that into God or you're putting it into community, and you talk about the people within the 3/4 way house, like someone who doesn't have much trust for people, for you to be able to put that much trust into them to go with you to the doctor, to share the story and to make sure that you're getting the care you need, that takes a lot to do that. But when you carry the weight of your own stuff and you're trying to do it by yourself, you eventually realize that that's not feasible. That doesn't always work.
When I was homeless, I still had my car, and I would sleep in my car sometimes. I was so mentally ill. I had I was in a drug-induced psychosis is really what ended up happening.
Oh, and that's why they
did the misdiagnosis, and that's why they thought. So it was and it's on, I was under board of mental health after I got sober. I mean, we could do a whole episode just on that,
Well, we might have to.
But it's pretty amazing. It's actually pretty amazing that when I was homeless and living on the streets, I had no way of getting around. So I would go to the gas station. I'm not like I don't believe in stealing and things like that. So I always would tell myself, like, I'm not that bad because I'm not stealing like other people are. Not that bad. I'm not using needles. So I always brought my bottom up, like it's really not that bad because I'm not as bad as that person. Mm-hmm. And so, my way of surviving was I would go to the gas station and I'd say, I'm not stealing from you, but if you want paid for your gas, you need to call my mom. So she was getting all kinds of phone calls.
Yeah.
And when I was at Douglas County, they had told me, like, you're going to need to call your mom and she's going to need to take you to the interview for the 3/4 way house. And if she doesn't, I'm sorry, we're going to have to send you to the regional center. And I'm like, I just remember I called her and I said, Mom, I need help, but I just need a ride to go to a 3/4 way house. And she had said to me at that time, whatever I can do to get you back in your son's life, I'm there for you. So I had this enormous pressure of, I have to stay sober for probation. I have to stay sober for my mom. I have to stay sober for my son. So when you get sober, that's why I got sober. Staying sober, that's a whole different thing. So I'm sober for a year. I graduate probation and I relapse. I go to a kegger, and I'm like, I'm not going to drink. It's fine. Well, I did. And then I have to go back to the 3/4 way house, but I didn't want to tell them because I didn't want to be kicked out and be homeless again.
Sure. Start over.
So I do what normal addicts and alcoholic people do. They manipulate. They can be liars. So I said, well, how can I not get kicked out? I'll just see if I can be on the board and be the person who gives people's UAs and stuff.
Smart. Good strategy.
Right. So that's what I did, and I thought that was normal. And then I got really sick in the program, obviously. Shortly after that, started going really back heavy into using drugs again. And the sponsor at that time that I had said, getting honest isn't coming to me every night and saying, hey, I smoked another joint, or hey, I smoked some crack, like that's not being honest. Being honest is like, you're going to change your life. There's only one thing you have to change, Tracey, and that's everything. And I was like, okay. And she said, and if you don't, you're affecting me and I love you very much. So you're going to have to find another sponsor. And I didn't want to do that. So I just remember I went home and I hit my knees and I'm like, I guess they say to do that. I mean, I guess I'll try it. So I did. And I remember I just had this, like, I called into work for 2 days and I was on a rampage. I was like, I guess I just need to apologize to everybody and that'll make me better, you know? So I tried that, and that really set me in motion to start kind of diving into the steps, or at least the idea of what that looked like. So I went kicking and screaming, really. And that's my story. When I tell my story, I always start with, you know, I've been sexually abused. I've been molested. I've been involved in gangs. I've been in so many abusive relationships. I was not a good friend. I was not a good mother. I was not a good daughter. And not one of those reasons is why I drank and used. I drank and used because I liked the effects, period. So because I could have used all of those reasons to continue using, or say, well, I'm working steps. I haven't got to that step yet, so I'm going to go use again a little bit. So I am a firm believer in, because of my journey and my experience, the only thing that works for a real alcoholic addict is the steps, and working them thoroughly, 100% rigorously honest, and it will save your life. It will save your life.
Yeah. Well, and there are a lot of people who look at that as structure. So using is chaotic.
Yes.
It's a chaotic lifestyle, disorganized, confusing, ups and downs everywhere, right? And so the steps can give that structure and also accountability.
Right.
You don't just work them and then stay quiet about it and journal about it. That is part of it. Right. But you have to share it with someone.
Yes.
And that's why this podcast is important too, because you're going through recovery on your own and feeling all those benefits, that's awesome. That's part of the puzzle, right? But being able to recover out loud and share your story and inspire other people to see the hope to be able to do that too, that's adding more to your recovery and your sobriety long term.
Right.
So that's what makes it so powerful.
100%. And you know, when I was early on and, you know, being in the 3/4 way house, I remember I called the lady that I would have maybe kicked me out. And I said, what do I do? I had already moved out. I just didn't want to be kicked out. And I didn't want to, you know, I moved out, continued to use for a while. And then finally I called her. She was one of the people I made an amends with and was like, this is what I was doing the entire time. What can I do to make it right? And she said, what you can do to make it right is get back involved. So then I got very involved into the program, so much that I hid in the program. All this time, we're talking 10 years has almost gone by, almost 10 years, where I'm helping with, you know, I'm doing all the things, I'm pouring the coffee, I'm greeting at the door, I'm driving all over town, blowing up 3 cars, trying to get people to meetings and, you know, doing all this service work. Not one time did I open the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and not one time did I work a step thoroughly. So about 10 years in from all of that, fast forward, I was suicidal. And I always say suicidal and probably more homicidal, because I didn't understand. I didn't understand that, you know, you're sober and everything's supposed to be beautiful. And you're listening to these people's stories in the room and you're like, well, that's great. What it was like, you know, how it was, what it's like now. And they're like, isn't this beautiful? You know, I've got this great job and I've got my kids back, but that wasn't reality for me. I didn't have my child back. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? So I was always comparing myself to the person telling their story. So I think there just needs to be more communication around, you know, I got really sick in the rooms because I didn't understand. I didn't understand that the sponsor that I had maybe didn't understand fully either. I didn't understand what it looked like if I was working a step and the sponsor at the time would say, you need to stop because I haven't got to my 4th step yet, so you can't work your 4th step. And that's your lifeline.
Right.
And so just because somebody else suggests that person would be good for you to work with, that's not always the case.
Same thing with therapy, right?
Yes.
Sometimes you have to try out a couple different people just to make sure that it's a good fit, because you're investing your time and your energy into yourself, and you have to make sure the person on the other side of the table is with you.
Right.
And it flows well.
Yeah. So I went through a lot, and you know, a lot of people there's if the noise can be so loud, the advice and the, you know, this is what you need to do. And you know, but then it's like you judge your own self, like you're just not good enough, or you just didn't do it right. And, you know, they always joke around about like the 4th step and the 5th step, like how long does it take you to do a 4th step? Well, if you're meeting your sponsor, if your sponsor gives you a year to work on a 4th step, it'll take you a year and 1 afternoon if you're meeting her in the evening, because that's what we do. We put it off for so long, you know. So I am a firm believer in, when I started sponsoring girls, after I'd been through the steps and I really understood how important it was, swiftly, like your life is dependent upon it. 100, you have to move very quickly. It is just like, you have to look at it like you have gone to the ER and this is your medication. This is what you have to do. And then it's up to you to stay sober and carry a message of hope, not a mess. You don't carry the mess, you carry a message of hope, you know? And so when people are just coming in and being sober and thinking that going to meetings is all you have to do, it's not enough. It's absolutely not enough.
Yeah, I've been thinking recently about just not drinking or not using. That's one piece. Yeah. There's so much more.
It's like the small piece.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that. You know, it took me a very long time to realize that it's just a small piece. And I remember, so there was this period in my sobriety there, you know, I've had a few like that where I'm like, God, you have to give me somebody to work with. You have to do something. I am struggling. Like, I'm on my knees here. I'm begging you. And then 20 minutes later, I get a call from my best friend in the program that we got sober together. And she's like, Tracey, I've relapsed. And she's sponsoring 20 women. You know, what do we do? I have to call somebody and say, what do we do? How do we help? And they say, well, we need to get all the women together, you know. And I remember it was so powerful. We were all sitting around this fire pit. And I remember looking up, and she's crying, and all the girls are crying. It's just, you know, so dramatic, of course. And so I said, what are we going to do to my good friend? And he said, we're not going to do anything. God's going to do. God's going to do it. God's going to take over from here. And I said, but why us? And he said, well, there's no difference between us and them. We've just been touched by God, and we allowed it. We accepted it. And we've truly been touched by God, and we have a gift. So you've got to keep moving forward. So I always kept that in the back of my mind too. You know, like I am, you know, we've got to help. There's so many people that need help. There's, you know, so the more you work with other women and the more you stay connected with the women, and, you know, I always say, you know, women work with women, men work with men. And I tell people I am so thankful for men in the program because not that I'd ever have a man sponsor, but some of my greatest advice, some of my guidance, my spiritual, you know, advisors, all that have been men, have been, you know, they've really guided me. And sometimes I didn't find that. I had a hard time finding that with women, you know.
Well, that's the thing too. If you've had some not so great experiences with men in the past, to be able to build trust with another man who is safe and is just a friend, or like you were saying, like spiritual guidance for you, and nothing more, just sees you for who you are, and there's no hidden agendas, there's nothing creepy going on or unsafe going on. Just to have those relationships,
it was amazing
to rebuild trust in
the world. Yeah, you know? It does. And it was absolutely beautiful when you're like, oh my gosh, this is how a woman is supposed to be treated. Like it's very confusing, right? Because you're like, are we supposed to be intimate together, or what's going on here?
Yeah.
it's a whole learning thing. Like you have to learn a whole new way of life. And that really is what it is. And so you go to these meetings and you go to meetings with people who've been a long time sober, like me. I'm one of them. It's hard for me to just step back into the arena and remembering this is what it was like, you know? And I always say, dumb it down for me, because I will go to meetings and I am not good with words. And some people talk and they talk so elegant that it's so intimidating that you don't want to talk at all because you're afraid you're not going to sound good, or maybe somebody's not going to understand what you're saying. It's all fear. That's all driven out of fear, you know? So,
and then somebody from the outside would look at you and say, you speak really well. You come across very, very eloquent and well-spoken and have a lot of powerful things to say. It's just your own mind.
Yeah. It's your own mind.
You.
It's your own mind. It's you. It's you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
now 19 years sobriety, which is just amazing. Tell me what your life is like now.
Okay. So I was pretty honest with you in the email and saying, I mean, for me to sit here and say, it's been 19 years of bliss. That is not my story. It's been very, very hard because life has happened and nobody really prepares you for that. You know, there's a guide, right? But in the guide, it doesn't say and tell you how you're going to deal with like the death of your whole family or, you know, losing friends to the addiction. And there's nothing prepares you for that. You just have to walk through it and pray to God that you have a good tribe around you that's going to, you know, thank God we're not all messed up at the same time, right? Because that's really what I relied on. I relied on those. Those were my lifeline. I had a very small group of people that I trusted. And for me, what happened with me is those people turned out to not be who they portrayed to everybody to be. So I know that I'm not the only one that has experienced that, of coming into any of the rooms, any of the AAs, CMAs, CAs, any AA, all of it. You know, it's difficult to, just like you said, if finding a therapist, you really have to find your people, because I would be sitting around the fire pit saying, you guys are not anybody that I would want to hang out. Like, you're talking about everybody. And newcomers are seeing that when they come into the room. That's not it's attraction, not promotion, right? A lot of things that were going on around me were not attractive at all. But that's how sick I was, because I'm like, so like I go back and forth. It's hard to put into words because I'm like, attraction rather than promotion. So I would get dressed up, you know, go to the meetings. I'd have my entourage. And it was like we were dressing up to go to the bar. And I had to really take a look at that until I got into the literature of AA, the traditions, the 12 steps, all of it. When you really take a deep dive into it, you get to understand, oh, so attraction, not promotion, isn't just taking a shower and showing up for a meeting. Like, you actually have to be a productive member of society. You have to apologize for your tone over and over and over and over again, you know? So what it looks like for me now is that I have my son in my life. I'm so thankful that I have my son in my life. I have a great mate right now. He's absolutely wonderful. It has not been, anybody that knows me knows it has not been easy, but we've grown and learned together. And I'm so grateful for that. So grateful. And I have so many friends right now that, as if I needed anything, I didn't have friends before. I did not have friends, you know, or people that I could call friends. I didn't even know what that looked like. You know, like we were talking a little bit about, that is exactly what it was like. You wake up, you're sitting around and you're like, who are these people? Right. I don't even like any of you, you know? But then you're like, but I've known some of you since I was really young, and that's hard. So it is, you have to change everything, you know? So I really, you know, I know my duty if I get called. I know what I'm supposed to do. I've worked now at all of the treatment centers that I was kicked out of at one time, and got to go work down there for a period of time. And then a little bit, when we come in, I have a felony on my records, and next week I'm going to go hopefully have it expunged from my record, which has been a very long time coming. I don't even have a speeding ticket. I have one felony thing on my record. So I'm hoping, so it's those things where it's like, when I came in, I got in trouble and I'm like, I'm never going to be anything. Like, all I wanted to be was a good mom, and I'm not that. All I wanted to do was, I wanted to work with kids, and my felony has kept me from doing so many things that I wanted to do, but has really led me down a path of, wow, had I gone the other way, I wouldn't have experienced this.
Right.
So I remember there was a good friend of mine. He said, Tracey, you need to just go apply for the job that you want, and you need to dress for the job that you want. And I said, okay. He said, I want you to every day go out there and just put in 5 applications to places you would never even think of working. Mm-hmm. And I did, and I was able to work for an attorney here in Omaha. Wow. And my goodness, they really taught me how to be a woman. I was like a wild animal, before I started working there, but then going in and eating lunch, I remember how nervous I was, like not even knowing like, what fork do we use, all of that stuff. So getting to learn all of that, it has just been an amazing ride. I get to be present. I get to go to work. I get to go to my son's sporting events. I get to participate, and I'm invited. Like, people that invite me or want me around for a really long time,
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What an amazing story. And I think there's so much embedded in all of that, and so many things that you've shared with me that we didn't even touch on. But I think that it's powerful to see where you were as a teen and where you are today. And just that, I think the truth is that it's not an easy journey. There's bumps in the road. There's a lot of things that have happened, but for you to be able to share your story here and hopefully inspire other people to let them know, like, it's not beautiful and all the sunshine and rainbows. No. It's hard work, but man, is it worth it.
It's so worth it.
Yes. Yeah.
I remember somebody saying, I wake up in the morning and I actually enjoy hearing the birds. Yes. I remember when I was, out there, you didn't want the sun to come up. And when it did, you were angry at the birds. Mm. It's like everything. It's like you take you've got these new set of glasses on and everything's so brighter. And, you remember conversations,
right?
You
right.
know,
yes.
You remember arguments, and you can definitely say, no, that's not what happened, So, and I've really learned how to stick up for myself.
Mm-hmm. That's huge.
Right. I've learned, I learned how to be independent. I didn't know how to do that before. I didn't even know how to take care of myself. I was dependent on my mother,
And here you are working, taking care of, I would say taking care of your son, but he probably does a lot of that on his own.
He does a lot of that on his own. He still needs a little bit of help.
He needs his mom still. But being able to be there for people now, and again, to share your story and inspire people is just beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming here and sharing this with me and with everyone listening. And congratulations on 19 years. And also, fingers crossed, prayers to you for court upcoming, and hopefully that goes really well for you too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you.